So hello to our attendees joining us, everyone trickling in. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk through, I just want to take a few minutes and explain why Sidekick was built. And then we're going to get right into it. We're going to do a live walkthrough of an event creation experience in Sidekick. And spoiler alert, we're going to recreate this event that you're experiencing with us today. And then we've got 10 minutes for Q&A and next steps. Another spoiler alert, we're going to want you to sign up for a free trial. And we've got a little bit of time left. We've booked a whole hour. I want to let people go after half an hour if you're free. But if you want to stick around, we're also going to give a sneak peek at some of the other features beyond what we're going to show you today that will be releasing in the coming weeks. So if you don't know me, my name is Ben. I'm the founder and CEO of Untitled Education and of Sidekick. And with me is the amazing Karim Khaled, the lead developer of Sidekick.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks, Karim. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I want to take a moment. We're into the why Sidekick phase of this discussion. I want to tell a story. It was really interesting as I was preparing for this presentation. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. We went through a lot of iterations of what we're going to present and how. I'm going to start with a story. To protect their names, I had this amazing conversation 2 days ago. Let's call them with Phil and Frank. Phil is the CEO of a company that we've known for longer than a decade. And Frank is a consultant that works with them on sales enablement. And we were talking about Sidekick, but also about the general challenges they have about delivering consistent training across their highly distributed sales team. And, as I was walking through with them, a lot of the same stuff I'm going to share with you today, one of the key elements was, well, how do you start? What do you do? And I said, well, let's do a thought experiment. Like, what works really well, Phil? And what works really poorly, Frank? And what have you heard? And, what we would do is let's take your best trainer, let's take your slide deck, and let's take you, Phil, the CEO, and let's make sure we're clear on what the business objectives are. And we started spitballing ideas, and it was really clear that spending 2 hours walking through 120 slides about the technical details of products is not the right way to go. And we talked about how do you confirm that the audience understands, and how do you confirm that the people there have the background that you thought they did. And it became a really great light bulb moment for me. We're realizing that this is all about distilling and scaling up the hard-won best practices that Untitled Education has learned over the last decade and a half of creating great learning. That there are two key ingredients in the recipe for engaging live training. And one of them is having the right approach and strategy. It's good training. Number two is about having the right tools and technology to complement that approach, especially when our workforces are distributed. So what makes Sidekick unique is that learning comes first. We've taken what we believe is a proven strategy for delivering engaging live experiences and have integrated that right into the technology. So what you'll see today is that Sidekick is not just an aid to help you deliver effective, engaging learning experiences. It's actually a guide that will help you shape your approach as you're planning out your lesson. And you'll see it's actually really quick and easy. And I want to take just a moment and maybe zoom out and talk about where Sidekick fits in the stack, if you will, of resources for learning and development. I like to think of it in two pieces. There is the asynchronous learning, self-paced learning, online courses, and there is synchronous learning. In the asynchronous piece, we all know what we have. We have learning management systems, we have quizzing platforms and learning aid systems and all kinds of stuff. And we have maybe vendors that deliver training to us for use at a self-paced, or maybe we have our own learning and development teams. Sidekick is not encroaching on that world. Sidekick is all about 100% about the live training piece. And if there's anything we've learned in the last decade and a half, e-learning alone is not sufficient. I think we all wish it was, because it's so scalable. It may be expensive to create, but at scale, it can be really valuable. However, almost all learning that we've seen that is great is blended learning. So at least some of it is synchronous and is live. And so the stack that you have for live learning, it's a boardroom in the olden days. It's a bunch of chairs and a podium and a projector. Now it's Teams or Zoom. It may be hired guns that come in and present training courses, or it may be your own internal subject matter experts. And they probably have a whole bunch of really long PowerPoints with a lot of technical detail. So what you're going to see in Sidekick is, yes, we are wrapping up Zoom with training focused tools, but it's so much more than that. It's all about process. Okay, I want to get right into being really clear on the problems and the challenges that exist in the industry that Sidekick solves. So this is, again, focusing entirely on the live challenges solved with Sidekick. It's about providing a consistent learning experience. For those of us that have courses that run over and over again with multiple facilitators, how do you make it so that the course run one day is as good as the course run another day? Or even better, what you learn from the first one, you can apply to improve the second one. Learner disengagement. It helps solve that by making it really simple to deploy all kinds of really great engagement experiences. Measured training effectiveness. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But imagine if you didn't just have to guess who was present, or maybe get a Zoom attendance report that lists 15 names and gives you a check mark. It's a bum in a seat, but did they learn? So imagine if you can really effectively measure how engaged someone is at every moment. We'll give you a little sample of that. And finally, the multitasking aspect of this. For those of you who are delivering training, you have to administer, you have to get people into breakout rooms, you have to manage the technology. Someone has a problem because their webcam doesn't work, and you have to teach and train. It's not simple, okay? So that is what drove us, if you will. Those are the apples that fell off the cart that we saw and said, let's pick these up. And here we are with Sidekick. So without further ado, I want to talk a little bit now about how we prepped for this session. And I will hand over to Kareem to actually give the demonstration. But, and I hinted at this before, we have a really robust feature set in Sidekick already, even though we're just launching our free trial today for the very first time. We have a pretty robust user guide. And Kareem and I sat down with this user guide and said, oh, there's a lot here. We probably should make this demo 2 hours long so that we get through everything. And that's the honest truth. We had a moment where we thought, how are we going to get through everything? And we realized, that's not good learning. We don't just want to walk through everything. There's a user guide. We're going to link it to you later. You can have it yourself. You can look at it. In theory, we could have plopped everything into slides and just started going. Instead, the goal was to zoom out and tell a story. And I had that very convenient conversation with, I forget what fake names I gave them, probably Phil and Frank or something like that. And it really helped me articulate a story. And I hope that helps you as attendees, or if you will, learners here, to relate to what's going on and to be able to see yourself in that story. So, you know what, as a really authentic demo, what I did is I prepared what I, as the learning development person, would have loved to present. And I made that all ready and presented it to Kareem. And I'm going to stop sharing and let him share as to how he actually invented, or how he actually created or choreographed this experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. I will start sharing my screen. And let me turn my video on. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and log out. I am an organizer and I want to create a training session. The very first thing I'm going to do is log into Sidekick. All right. So I see a list of all of the accounts that, of all of the events that I have run or I will be running. This event that we are in right now in this call is right over here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new event to replicate the experience of creating what we are in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click this button that says create an event. I've now reached the place where I'm going to be creating my events, which we call the event creation wizard. And you can see a bunch of fields right over here. The very first thing I'm going to do is copy the name of the event we're currently in. And I'm going to set this event to run, let's say tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Hey, Kareem, I'm going to interject just for a second and suggest that anyone who wants to see it larger can double click on the screen share of Kareem, and that will put it into full screen for you.
Thank you, Ben. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this event to run tomorrow at 11 a.m. And let's say this is a 1 hour long training session. We'll make it end at 12 p.m. on that same day. And it looks like I chose the wrong end date. There we go. Now, as you guys walked into this event, you saw something called an event dashboard, and there was a big overview explaining what we're going to be talking about in this meeting. So Ben actually shared with me a document containing all of that information so I can easily copy and paste it. So I'm going to go ahead and rearrange my displays quickly.
So while
And
Kareem is
I'm gonna
pulling
pull
that
the
up,
event
this is a template which I've actually made available on the resources on the left-hand side if you want to download it and look at for yourself as a way to structure what we want to choreograph in this experience.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I went ahead and pasted my event overview. The next thing I'm going to want to do is add participants into Sidekick so that they can attend this live learning session just as we are right now. And we're going to walk through how easy it is to get participants into Sidekick. I'm going to go ahead and click this Add Users button. And there are two fields we see over here. The first is participants, which is what the majority of us in this call are. There's also a role for presenters of our training session. I'm going to start by adding my participants. And in this document that Ben just linked to everybody, I'm going to go ahead and paste a list of emails separated by commas. There are two formats that Sidekick does accept. The first is just a basic email address. And the second format is something you might find in Google Calendar or in Gmail, where you see the name of the user and their email right beside them. Both formats are supported. I can go ahead and click Add Emails, and boom, all of my users are in Sidekick. Now, just don't forget, I'm going to go ahead and add the presenter user, which will be Ben. And Ben is added to this list now. If I want to make any changes to this list, I can go ahead and do so. I can change the user's name, the user's email, or even the role that they're in. And finally, I can remove users from this list if I want. As soon as I'm ready, I can go ahead and click Submit. And we're going to see our users appear in a pretty list of cards right over here. So we can see our presenter, Ben, highlighted in blue. And we can see all of our other participants. If needed, I can change their roles as well. So now that my users are in Sidekick, we're gonna start talking about how to organize our learning session so that we split it off into digestible bits and pieces that make training effective. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Next, and we're gonna begin choreographing our schedule. Now, in this meeting that we're in right over here in Sidekick, in the video conferencing call, to the left of the videos, we see a tab called Schedule, where you can see the overlay of all of the topics that we're going to talk about in today's learning session. You can see, now this is something you're seeing. I'm not sharing my screen yet. However, I'm going to replicate what we see in this Schedule tab that you guys all can see. So we have something called steps in this schedule. And what a step is a section from within our training session, a little segment to discuss maybe one topic, this chapter of the novel and another chapter. And within each step, we can customize this segment of the training session in multiple ways. We can set the name of our step. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this from the document Ben linked us to be the first one we see in Sidekick in this event called Welcome. We can also set the duration to 3 minutes. Now, this serves as an automatic time check for our presenters so that, hey, I'm taking way too long on this step. Perhaps I need to allocate more time for this next time. Or maybe this is an important step. I guess I'll just make that decision to skip over the next step. because we are
Incidentally, Kareem, you're doing great. We got 7 minutes left.
Cool. Now on Ben's screen, which we're gonna share how the presenter controller actually looks like, the presenter view of this platform. He does see a duration timer counting down. So this 3 minutes that we just set will start counting down as soon as you change steps or sections of this. We can also add a step description if we'd like. Now, there are a bunch of buttons that we can use to customize our step in this training session. Now, that resource that Ben pointed everybody to on the dashboard of our controller, Ben uploaded by clicking this Add Resources button. Now, Ben did link to a file that he asked me to download, and I'm going to go ahead and click this. I will download this file, and I will show you guys how to get that in. And there are actually two types of resources that we support in Sidekick. The first is a link or a URL that we can ask users to click, and it opens up in a new tab. Alternatively, we can add a file itself, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this situation. All right. Now, I will click one of these files that is present. I guess this was on one of the previous steps. Trouble with camera and microphone. What to do if I'm experiencing this. I can also add a link if I want, and I'll just add a link to Google. As soon as I add the resources for this section of the training session, we can go ahead and click done. Now, as we cycle between steps in this training session, we can surface in a live fashion different resources automatically, meaning that if we jump over to the next step of the session, we can show different resources automatically to our participants. The next way we can customize a step in Sidekick is by adding a presenter note. And it's labeled as step notes. Now, this is only visible to the presenters and organizers of the training session. Say there are a couple key topics that I want to hit while discussing this section of the training. Or maybe I want to ask a particular question at this time. Now, in these step notes for this learning session, Ben had a list of trivia questions, and we're going to go ahead and copy those and add them into our step. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And again, these notes are only visible to the presenter of the training session, not any of the participants of it. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is breakout groups. Now, this might sound familiar. It may sound like the term breakout room within Zoom. Now, this is distinct from what is present in Zoom. And breakout groups allow us to preset different groupings of users prior to the learning session so that the presenter of this training session, or the trainer, doesn't have to worry about it while they are presenting, but rather they can focus on the material at hand. They will click a single button, it redirects all users into a different meeting or whatever allocated groups that we have. In this case, let's set up 2 groups. And then we can click a button to send everybody back to the meeting that the presenter is in. So in each breakout group, we can customize these, and the goal is to not put this on the presenter's back or have a warm body in the training session to manage the breakout groups, but rather we can get this preset before the training session. I'm going to go ahead and click Done. There is one more button that says Add Engagement Activities. Now, in the future, we're going to be adding cool features, cool live features that we can surface, like word clouds. And I don't want to spoil too much because Ben will be talking about it later in this meeting. However, these same features that we will be adding can be run live within the Sidekick controller itself. And Ben, would you like to sample one of the engagement features we have set up?
You bet I would.
Cool. If you have Zoom on full screen, you may need to click Escape to minimize that. And you will see a reflective question engagement feature.
And those are trickling in.
Mm-hmm.
There we got most everybody, so I'll end it. And yeah, so 3/4 of the people, this is sparking other ideas for them. And that's the whole idea is, Sidekick as a platform to focus the way you think about engaging your learners. Does exactly that. It causes you to think about different ways of training. Thanks. Carry on, Kareem.
Awesome. Now I do see some questions in the chat. I will run through them at the end, so feel free to post any more questions and yeah. Okay, so we created one step. Let's go ahead and create the second step of this training session, of this event that we're in right now. Let's say it's a training session. And on my screen that I'm sharing, the second step is called Why Sidekick. And this is what Ben had set up prior to creating the event that we are in right now. And I'm going to set a duration of 5 minutes. This is that automatic time check that kicks off that we talked about. And I can add a description if I'd like. And Ben had run a hand-raising activity just before this. So all of the notes pertaining to that can be added in the step notes. And these will only be visible to Ben. Finally, we don't have any breakout groups to configure, so we won't do that. If we did have breakout groups or resources we wanted to add, these can be different in each segment of this training session. So if I jump over to this third step, I can have different groupings of users that I want to be together in a room, and different resources and different notes. All right, if I want, I can remove steps from this list. I can also add new steps, and we're going to be adding shortly a way to reshuffle the ordering of steps. But yeah, that would be a run through of the choreography of creating this training or learning session.
That's great, Kareem. I'm just here with a time check. I'm going to suggest maybe you just jump into the Finish tab and talk quickly about that, and then we can resume our presentation.
Sure, sounds good. So finally, that invitation email that you guys received to click an invite link into Sidekick, this is exactly where it's sent. We can add a custom message from our organizer. We can also attach pre-resources, which is kind of like homework. Maybe we'd like you to look through this document prior to joining this training or learning session. Post-event resources can then be viewed from the event dashboard that we saw just before we clicked into this event. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not actually going to send these invitations yet, but rather I'm going to jump into this event that I had just created. I made it all caps. And you can actually see a list of items that I have yet to do. I can actually go back and access that same view and maybe update my schedule for this training or learning event. I can also see a list of things that I forgot to do, like send invitations out. I can even preview an event, which if we do have time for, we can run through the presenter view of maybe I want to familiarize myself with the schedule that I just created.
I think, Kareem, please do. Yeah.
Sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and click Preview Event. And I'm going to maximize my page over here just to remove the notes that Ben had sent us. All right. So my computer may get a bit sluggish because I am running Zoom in 2 different tabs. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video in the presentation that we're in right now. Okay, so what is being displayed right now is the presenter view of this training or learning session. Now, first of all, you may notice this drop down at the top, which represents the different steps that we had created. We can jump between steps, or we can click next to go to the next step. We can also view that time check from that duration that we added. And it immediately started counting down over here at the bottom where my mouse is, bottom right of the controller, beside Zoom, the little screen beside Zoom. We can also see the resources that we uploaded. All of our participants will see this. And what is not visible to you guys at the moment is this duration timer that we can set. So if I click Start Timer, all of my participants would start seeing this in Sidekick. Now I can go ahead and do that in the call that we're in right now. You can see a timer kick in right away on the dashboard page of your controller. I'm going to go ahead and click stop. There are 2 more buttons to show. Start breakout groups. And if I click this, all of my participants are sent off to their pre-assigned breakout groups. If you don't have a breakout group configured and you are a participant, you are randomly assigned one. And to pull everyone back in, I just click End Breakout Groups. And the final thing I'm going to show you guys in this, 2 more things that I want to show you guys. Number 1 is I can actually send notifications to all of my participants if they are in different rooms. I'll go ahead and send one to everyone right now over here. This way you can communicate with your attendees if they are not in the same Zoom meeting. We can also view our step notes that we have created. This is visible only to the presenter. If I switch steps, my apologies, I can view the step note for the next step. And the final thing I wanted to show you guys is that reflective question that Ben just asked us. We can click Ask a Reflective Question from this Management tab that you guys don't actually have as participants, but if you are organizers or presenters, you would see this. We can select any question. Did anything here surprise you? We launch the question, and as soon as our participants respond, and pull and view results. This is one of the many engagement features that we're going to be building into Sidekick. And as soon as our event is done, we can click End Events. Cool. Now, Ben, do you think we have time to run through questions?
What I'm going to propose, I'm going to hit on a couple of them really quickly right now, and then I'm going to propose that we hit the rest of them in the Q&A time. The one issue I do want to, it wasn't an issue, it was a question, someone asking about, do I need a Zoom account? Kareem several times mentioned Zoom. What you're seeing in the middle of your Sidekick screen is Zoom. We're leveraging Zoom's software development kit. But it's so tightly integrated that you do not need a Zoom account at all. You do not, and if we didn't tell you it was Zoom, you wouldn't know. You'd think, wow, these guys have been building a really great video conferencing tool. In fact, of course, it makes much more sense to integrate with something that is widely known and widely trusted. I saw another question, what about Teams integration? At this moment, you do not need a Zoom account, you do not need a Teams account, you only need a Sidekick account. And with that Sidekick account, you can have unlimited training and unlimited participants inside it. So at this moment, the platform we chose was Zoom, and that's kind of the path that we're taking. And what I want to do is I want to proceed, and then we'll leave time for Q&A. There will be lots more thereafter. So thank you so much for that, Kareem. So that was a demo, as we saw, of the learning creation. We use this term choreography, and it's a very intentionally chosen word because training is much more like a dance than it is like anything else. And even though you can create a series of steps with a series of timing, we know that questions come up and different personalities and different levels of background come up. So it's up to the dancer, the trainer, to field the room and to choose how and well they how they follow that. And so the choreography is this term we've chosen, but it's not required that the person follow that exactly. That's why we're 4 minutes over already. You also have been experiencing the participant experience. You see that yourself in terms of reflective question popping up, as well as timing that you can see and the chat and everything else. And the facilitator view, Kareem just gave a quick demonstration of. The last thing that I want to talk about just very briefly is analytics. And I want to give you kind of a sneak preview of, and I just want to confirm, are you seeing sheets at this moment? Yes, thank you. This is not actual data from this meeting. We chose not to do that because didn't want to, reveal to the attendees anything. But this is an example where you can have every one of your participants listed. You'll see their name, email, when they joined, when they left, how many times they clicked on resources, what their answer was to the first reflective question, what their answer would be for every single question that is brought up to them, which breakout room they went to. And this is kind of demonstrating some examples where it looks like participant 4 came and disappeared again or didn't participate. And so this is a way to get around that Zoom attendance not giving you an accurate measurement of whether someone is engaged in learning. So I wanted to paint this picture. We're collecting telemetry of what every single person does throughout their training experiences. And that has a different reaction to different people at different times, as you all might imagine. But for us, from a learning and development point of view, and from a business objectives point of view, it's an essential piece to be able to, in a secure way, make sure that people are doing what we want them to do during training sessions, that the trainings themselves are effective. And I just to wrap up, if you will, every learning session, or at least the planning for every learning session, kind of starts the same way, with way too much detailed content. There's a need to find the story and to find a creative way to share that knowledge in a way that people will take it in. And in order for people to take it in, it needs to be engaging. And it needs to be delivered with the right tool that facilitates that engagement. If we're doing one-to-one stuff, one-to-one sessions, that's easy. We can do that all day long. But life, and particularly training, is not one-to-one. And that's really what led us down this path to build the Sidekick experience that we've shared with you today. If you're available to stick around, we're going to jump now into Q&A, and then after a little bit of that, we will we're going to walk through some of the features that we'll be rolling out. When we say future features, we don't mean far off. We are launching our soft launch of Sidekick today. You're here. Thank you. We're offering a free trial from now until April 1st, and all the features we're going to show you will be live in this quarter. And as per back to the story of meeting with Phil and Frank, Frank is this amazing sales enablement coach. I'm going to take some advice from him and make sure that I ask you for the order. I am asking you now to please sign up for the free trial. There is a link on the resources, or there will be. Let me put it back to the right step. Yeah, if you see on the left on the resources, there's a MailChimp link, the second one. Please click that and please sign up for the free trial. What will happen next is we will book some time with you. In fact, you'll get a link to book a Calendly time. It'll be with Kareem and or myself and or other members of our team to do what we did with this experience for you and to help you get your first learning experience inside Sidekick. So please do that. Our job is to be obsessed with your success within Sidekick. Without further ado, talk about some of the stuff that's coming. Note-taking on the part of the participants. This is such an exciting feature. It's one that is rife with tons of great conversation internally, even at Sidekick, about, will everyone want to use digital note-taking? Will they not? But imagine if all your learners were taking notes and it was tagged to a particular step so that they can find those notes later and know what it correlated to. It's very exciting. Oh, let me turn my screen share back on. Or is it still on? It's still on. Okay, excellent. So that's one, note-taking in for participants. Much more detailed reports. I showed the sample content inside of a spreadsheet. Now imagine if you're able to, through a really great, beautiful dashboard, be able to filter by event type, by date, by time, even a little bit by participant, and see leaderboards, see which questions were asked, and see all kinds of historical information. That is a very exciting feature that we're going to be continuously adding fidelity and capability to. Well, that one will be built out forever, I'm sure. Live engagement scores. So seeing in real time who's got a thumbs up, who's got 5 bars of engagement, who's got 0 bars of engagement. And inferring that from someone's activity, from whether they're participating in the chat, whether they're going to breakout rooms, whether they're answering poll questions and things like that. Being able to see that in real time. Reactions. So we have reactions built into the conferencing interface below. We're building out much more specific learning focused reactions that also allow us to collect that telemetry and use that for the reporting after the fact. there's a lot more too. I mean, there were already some questions about breakout rooms. We're enhancing the capability of breakout rooms, adding a lot more randomization and how to handle when people don't show or when people are late additions. Being able to have real-time interactive experiences like word clouds. Like, what does everybody feel about this? And type in what you think, and then the word cloud will be built in real time. Assessment of learning and assessment of people's engagement is really critical. So having surveys, quizzes, and polls built right in, so you don't have to send someone out to a Google form or to a Kahoot or something else. Being able to assign homework and integrating that with the assessment platform so that you can have rudimentary grading for someone before they come in. Being able to compare learning post-event, pre-event. As the choreographer, being able to create frequently asked questions that are easy to access. Like right now, there's a button at the top right. Trouble with your camera or microphone, could have FAQs in an experience that's really easy to access just like that. Having a learning timeline built in that allows people to see in real time, be always oriented to where they are in a learning session. Doesn't always make as much sense in a short session, but imagine if you have a week-long training session. Now the schedule that gets showed can be quite complex, so being able to show that in terms of a timeline. And there were lots of questions about integrations. That is very much on our roadmap, and very much welcome Mike and Denise and others who have offered to talk to us more about that. And fun stuff too. We got the ability to say, hey, you've just scheduled 8 hours solid of training without a single break. How about inserting a bio break here? We can make that recommendation, and being able to put in intermissions where music is played or little mini games pop up that have leaderboards. So we have a lot of fun here on the Sidekick side, imagining these ways to really just drive fun into the middle of learning that may not naturally have fun built into it. In advance, I want to thank you for participating in our soft launch. I hope you sign up for a trial and help us, deploy this system for April with all the features that you wish to see. So I want to thank you in advance and wish you an amazing afternoon. And thank you for joining us.